Today's topic is 7 nutrition myths that need to die. Could be potentially controversial, because it always brings up lots of opinions whenever we do nutrition stuff, but we will attempt to debunk some of these nutrition myths today. And the first one is always the classic. There are lots out there, like, fat's bad for you, red meat's bad for you, egg yolks are bad for you, you should always do a detox. But this one's always the top of the list. Carbs make you fat. And I shared a little story with James just before we started recording that when I was just about to start work the other week, I walked into the office and my wife's friend was on Zoom with her and she was like, "I'm not eating carbs anymore, I'm too fat." And my wife was like, "Josh might be a little bit upset by that statement." I was like, "I'm not getting involved. Definitely not going to say anything." And then in her next breath, she was like, "I'm going keto." And I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to walk out the room now, basically. So yeah, we will come on to keto in this myth. So let's go with the first one. Carbs make you fat, James.
Well, this is an interesting one, isn't it? And it's a hot topic, I think, a lot of people. Now, let's just caveat all of these myths. I think a lot of people are married to their nutrition principles, and it's almost like a religion for a lot of people. You upset a lot of people when it comes to this sort of stuff. So I apologise if we offend anybody right now. It's not our intent, but we're just going on basic fact, and we're very much nutritionally agnostic.
Data. We're going on data, basically.
Data, trying to say as nutritionally agnostic as possible. Now, I believed that carbs made me fat. I did used to believe this, because what I didn't realise is I having such a bad reaction to some types of carbs. So I, for example, put on a lot of water weight when I have processed carbohydrates, particularly processed bread, or if I have a dirty Big Mac from McDonald's, right, guarantee the next day I'll just balloon. I'll put on half a kilo to a kilo in water weight. I'll feel it all, water retention here. So I can understand why some people may believe that, but it's water weight. It's how my body reacts and the inflammation that happens when I eat certain foods. However,
certain carbs. Let's caveat this with certain carbs. You're talking about slightly more processed stuff like breads and other grains, stuff like that. You're not talking about broccoli.
No.
You know what I mean?
Not broccoli or cold steel cut oats. Proper oatmeal for those guys in the States. So if I'm having quality, it doesn't affect me at all. It's absolutely fine. It's quality produce. I can even have, and this is my kryptonite, pizza, because it's tomatoes, which I have intolerances to, the nightshades, dairy, and the wheat. However, if I have a really, really well done pizza, right, that is, highly produced, top of the grain here, I can have a couple of slices and it doesn't affect me as much. However, if you go take me to Domino's, I will literally be dying, curled up with stomach cramps within a few minutes, right? So, and it is, and again, the next day I'll literally balloon up in water weight and it'll be like, oh my God. But no, carbs don't make you fat. They may appear to make you fat if you are intolerant to certain carbs, because it makes you feel put on water weight like I do. Yeah. I totally understand that way you may believe it, but long term it doesn't make you fat. Yeah. Right?
Basically, countless studies have shown in the end it comes down to consuming significantly more calories than you need. And when calories are equated, it does not matter whether you are higher fat or higher carb, the results are basically exactly the same. Right, next one. Move on. I always enjoy talking about the carbs one. Sugar is more addictive than cocaine. I've seen this on Twitter a lot of times.
I know, and it's that and the brain signals. It's the brain studies they show, isn't it? Like, didn't CrossFit go all out against sugar at some point a few years ago? They
Probably.
Yeah, that was their thing, that they believed sugar was making the world fat, and they highly went after it. Now, again, what does the research say? It doesn't make a difference.
It's not. Well, we're talking about, is it more addictive than cocaine? And the answer is quite simply no. It isn't more addictive than cocaine. It's not a drug, for a start. It's a source of energy. All carb, we're going back to carbs, get broken down into sugar.
Yep.
And yet we're not saying, by the way, you should be eating teaspoons of sugar, because no, you shouldn't. There are more nutritious foods out there, but in the end, it's energy, and it isn't cocaine. Maybe we should just leave that one there. Put it out there on the table.
I tell you what, though, I always love this. a good friend Andrew Reid, he talks about his number one fuel source when he's out doing triathlons or doing long rides is a Snickers and a full fat Coke. And literally,
Right.
it is true.
Yeah.
And he got that from some of the top triathletes. Sometimes they have that as an energy boost to keep it going.
Well, it's instantaneous energy. Isn't it?
Yep.
It's almost instant energy. So yeah, you might need that as a triathlete because you need a lot of calories.
So
there you go.
I would argue. I would argue though. People say I'm addicted to chocolate, right? Which is sugar,
Yeah.
right? Is that more a mental thing though? Is that something like?
I was going to say, is that down to the endorphins it releases and the feel-good hormones it releases when you eat it?
Yep.
Probably not necessarily the fact that it's got sugar in it.
No, but anecdotally, I've got a funny story from my dad. My dad, sorry, I've got this complete tangent today. My dad phoned me up yesterday, and he actually said to me, he goes, "James, I think you're right." I went, "What? Hang on, can I have this in writing, Dad?" He goes, "Yeah, I think I am allergic to dairy." And even though he knew he was a few years ago, we found him helping lose weight. He's been going back to it recently and stuff like that. And he binge ate half a big bar of chocolate Toblerone yesterday. And no, day before yesterday. And 24 hours, he was on the toilet. He hasn't eaten anything for 24 hours as a result of it. And he says that's the second time something's happened in the last month having that sort of thing. And I can't hear, So yeah,
brilliant.
So sorry, random tangent on sugar.
No, random tangent, but I enjoyed it. Sugar, yeah, I enjoyed it. Next one, myth 3. I don't know where people have got this one from. I didn't even realise this was a myth, but apparently it is. Calorie deficits don't work for fat loss. What?
I'm just lost for words for that one. I wasn't expecting that one to come up, but it's apparently people still believe that, and that's the thing. Can we move on? I don't know what to say about that.
Is it maybe the confusion that again when people change their diet and they go to to paleo or to some sort of low carb or Mediterranean or whatever it is and they lose weight, that they're thinking it's the something they're doing in the diet specifically about that diet, when in the end, if they were tracking food, all it is every diet puts you in a deficit because you are cutting something out somewhere.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Every single diet, no matter what diet it is, will put you in a calorie deficit because you've cut something else out.
Yeah.
There you go. That's it. Moving on.
I think if you listen to the podcast long enough, you know that we believe in calorie deficits. And you've got to find the right thing. Now, I will say something which is interesting for us in the last couple of days, is that obviously I'm in a calorie deficit myself at the moment. Like I'm not. Well, I actually got a bit of man flu at the moment, so if I sound croaky, I do apologise. But what we've discovered is that what I thought was my maintenance, about 2,500 calories, we're thinking now maybe less than that, 2,300, and because we found that my optimal weight loss is around 1,800 calories at the moment, as opposed to 1,900 and 2,000, which has changed. This is something that happens here, and it changes over time. So your body adapts and changes over time. So what may be a calorie deficit for some people sometimes, excuse me, it can change and adapt the more your body changes over time as well. So something to think about.
But anyway, we can't really go into that because we're trying to minimise that adaptation with your weight vest. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. We can't go into that. Next one. Aspartame causes cancer. This is a big one that's all around Twitter all the time. Aspartame causes cancer, James?
Research says no. It's like computer says no.
Computer says no.
Computer says no. Research says no. No, it doesn't. Not to the same quantities that you potentially leave. Like, if I did kill cancer, I'd be screwed, because my number one default way of helping myself lose weight and going into a deficit is to curb any sugar cravings. Is I have myself a Pepsi Max or a Coke Zero. I'm not discriminating between the two of them or either brand, right?
Other brands are available.
However, it's one of those things. Again, Lane Norton's a big one of this. He debunks this all the time. And if you haven't checked him out, check out Bio Lane on Instagram, I think it is. He's a great guy for debunking a whole load of myths and calling bullshit on a lot of people in the nutrition industry, because that's what happens a lot of the time. People are playing on the fears of people when it comes to nutrition, because it's so religiously and personally, emotionally charged, essentially. So we're going to bear that in mind.
Essentially, so what we're saying is there is no current evidence to show that, but we're then not saying go out and drink 1,000 Diet Cokes either. Let's have our sensible head on.
Exactly.
Shall we? The next one is protein damages your kidneys.
Does it?
No, it doesn't. Again, I'm not sure we need to dive deeply into this one, but again, there is zero evidence to show that excess protein damages your kidney.
Where did we see that? We saw this recently. I think there's a whole load of vegans, wasn't there, sharing this?
God, there's everywhere.
Nothing against vegans, by the way.
Again, it's another one that's peddled around.
Yeah,
all the time.
There's no. They can have huge amounts of protein. It doesn't affect the body. So again, what does the research say? Meta studies, metadata. It says it doesn't affect it up to a huge, vast quantity, almost more than you can eat in a day, essentially.
Yeah. Again, there is no evidence to show that. I think we can leave that one there. Oh, James, this in the past, this one might have upset you. Intermittent fasting is better for fat loss than regular caloric restriction.
Interesting. This is fascinating because, when I was in the police, I used the warrior diet. Before the 16-2, the 5-2 diets became famous. Like the warrior diet.
So the warrior is eat one meal a day, right?
Yeah, make it big. Yeah. It was like Ori Mekla, I think his name was, who did it. It was big in the Krav Maga world. All the Krav Maga guys were doing it and following that, because I think he was Israeli too. So it worked well for me when I was in the police to control my weight, and I felt more alert when I was doing it. And I was less snacking in between, so that was good. But again, it was calorie restriction, calories in, calories out. That's what worked for me, but it's more of a performance thing to manage shift patterns and stuff too, because that was the hard bit.
Again, what does it come down to? Calories in, calories out, negative energy balance. That's all it comes down to. However, again, it's like if you feel intermittent fasting works well for you because it may have a better psychological impact on you if you're doing shift work or something like that. It may be better for your personal digestion. Go for it. Do it.
Now, I'm using intermittent fasting, a form of it at the moment, as part of my thing. I'm doing 1 full day of intermittent fasting on my calorie deficit. So I'm trialing it out, but then I've been doing it for quite some time, I've done it for many years over the years. But I'm not saying it's the best way to do it, because what I found with doing it was it's quite antisocial if you are doing it to the T. However, on a Monday, for example, I'm on my own, working in the office or doing whatever I'm doing. I'm on my own. I don't need to worry about anybody else. I'm not eating with anybody else. So it's long term, it's a bit different. So.
Yeah. Interestingly, what you found, sorry, I'll go on about this one a little bit more, with intermittent fasting is that when you've had COVID or been unwell, that affects your gut, and intermittent fasting seems to help your gut recover quicker. It
is, and that's why I've gone back to it a lot more recently, because of in the last couple of years I am what we call a shit magnet for COVID. I think that's the best way to put it.
If you want to put it like that, yeah.
Best way to call it. I just, for whatever reason, but it doesn't affect me in the same way. I've got a common cold and flu at the moment. That's what I've got at the moment, which is I haven't had for years. But I've had COVID, I think, close to 10 times, 11 times in the last 2-3 years.
That cannot be possible. You've had a cold sometimes. I don't believe that.
Some people. But no, but it's interesting but it affects my digestive system, and it makes me hypoglycemic. I have some food, I spike and I crash and become narcoleptic almost. So it's here. But the way I've found to cope with it is if I do completely fast, which is hard going on the first day, do a second day as well, I tend to recover better from it. Not saying you should be intermittent fasting to recover from colds, which I'm not doing right now. I'm eating normally. However, I found to control...
Starve a fever, feed a cold. That one is definitely... That's not a myth, that is true, in my humble opinion. Have some chicken soup. Anyway, moving on to the final myth. Myth number 7. Keto gives you permission to eat as much bacon and butter as you want. I'm going to let you run with this one, James.
I wish that is so true. That would be amazing. I really, really wish that. Keto lets you eat as much bacon and butter as you want. No, it does not, because it comes down to the calorie-energy equation and energy balance. You've got to eat less than you need to lose weight. So it's No, you can't eat it. But I'd love it though. I'd love it. I love bacon. I love a little bit of butter. Even though I'm dairy intolerant, I like a little bit of butter in some foods if I can get some in there. But no, it doesn't. I'm so sorry. I wish it was believable. It'd be so good. It'd be so good.
I was going to say, wouldn't that be wonderful? Because I also love bacon and butter.
I know. But there's other issues with that as well, because bacon is fairly processed. So.
Yeah. Well, God, now you're going down a whole rabbit hole.
No, I'll avoid it
as well.
I'll avoid it. But I love bacon. I had bacon and eggs this morning. There you go. How about that?
Did you ever try the bulletproof coffee? I went down that route once where you put a shed load of butter in your coffee. I thought it tasted quite nice, but it did absolutely nothing for my energy.
I remember putting in
or my calorie intake.
I didn't do the butter. I did the coconut oil. And I remember almost burning my lips off and this scalding the top of my mouth, right? Because I put coconut oil into the coffee, and it just literally became so hot. Like literally, it was so hot, like molten hot. And I was scalding my mouth. So I do remember that. But no, good myth. But I'd love it to be true, but sadly not.
Exactly. Sadly not. There you go. Those are 7 nutrition myths that we think need to die. Please do feedback and let us know what you thought of this podcast. Maybe slightly controversial, but I tell you what, I enjoyed this one, James. We've gone slightly longer than we would usually, but there we go. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. That is it for today. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And if you want to find out more about our system of training, go to strengthmatters.com/system.